Hi, and welcome back to Is This Really for Kids, a podcast where your host, TheaTouchton, decide is this piece of media really for children? I'm qualified because I was a traumatized child myself. I learn more things in the mental health space as a mental health advocate every day, and I'm also a filmmaker, making my own films, some for teenage audiences. So I know how to make a good film. I'm learning how to be better, and one of the ways I learn is by reviewing films. So today, we're going to talk about Ouija. Ooh, spooky. So if you notice, if you click down, you can see these little download buttons. I actually own an Ouija board, but I don't want to anymore. But I'm keeping it for the sketch idea that is about why Apple service phone calls take so long. Like when you call to talk about what's wrong with your phone and get like an update. You ever done that? I have. It takes a really long time, and this is kind of a funny parody sketch of why. And it involves a Ouija board. And if you want to see why and find out, I would really urge you to, donate below at those links. And that would mean a lot, so that I can pay my actors and my crew and make a really good, entertaining short for you so you can forget about the troubles of the world. But yes, the Ouija movie, not the second one, which is directed by our Haunting of Hill House guy, which is pretty cool. I think I actually like the sequel prequel better than this one, and I will go and review that one too. But for now, we gotta start at the top, we got to start at the top. So this movie starts out with a young Debbie and Elaine playing a Ouija, and they tell us some rules of a Ouija, which Luke and I did the board right before it, and we did not follow these rules, and we immediately went and put it back out and said goodbye because we were playing with the board just for shits and giggles, which was very dangerous, and we asked it what its name is, and it did a bunch of, it said, like HGGHHGVT, a word that is not in English, and I was like, that's not very good, but Luke was just like, it's obviously not working. And then we asked if you were a demon, and it said yes, and Luke put the board away because he was very scared. It was very not funny, because if that was a demon, that's terrifying, but we don't mess with those. But then we watched this movie after it, and immediately the rules of this movie are you cannot play Ouija alone, which we didn't do that. You cannot play in a graveyard. We didn't do that. But you have to say goodbye. We did not do that. And we quickly went out and got the Ouija board and said goodbye. But maybe we're cursed forever. Who knows? Life is not always easy, but I've had some successes lately, so maybe it's not so bad. Maybe it's not so bad, I'm choosing not to believe in a curse, okay? So just for my benefit, I am uncursed, all right, okay, I hope so, please. Anyway, Ouija board is an eye to their side, and then it just kind of ends there in the flashback, and then we fast forward 2 years later, Debbie older, burning the Ouija board in a fire, which to me also seems to not be a very good idea. And then she doesn't want to go to this basketball game, which I can understand. I'm not also very much a sports fan. So she is alone, and she finds that the Ouija board is back on her bed, even though she burned it. So creepy. Don't even know what I would do. I quit. I guess I would probably do what she did. And then she ends up getting possessed, and she hung herself, and it sucks because now everybody thinks that she committed suicide when really it was a ghost doing that. So they're all going to think she has mental health issues she didn't even have. She was just haunted, which sucks, Maybe a lot of mental health issues are ghosts. Who knows? I can't get too deep into that, and that would obviously be trivializing a lot of science and things behind that. But sometimes I do think that, I don't know, sometimes I do believe in demonic possession, and I don't want to, but that's the only way I can explain some inhuman acts. I'm like, it has to be something inhuman. But maybe I'm just giving humanity too much nice credit. So Lainey thinks it's weird because Debbie hung herself with fairy lights, and she suspects that it is the Ouija board. It must be evil. And so she is left home alone, and she gets her boyfriend, who's a little bit older. Don't know always how I feel about older guys dating younger girls, but I think he's only, older slightly in, high school. So it's still okay, I think. And then they get their friend Isabella and her younger sister Sarah. So she's gonna do a seance, and because she is babysitting Debbie's house because her parents are grieving somewhere. It would probably be really hard to grieve in a house where somebody killed themselves. I cannot even imagine. That would be really tough, and sorry to anyone who is going through that. So then Debbie's boyfriend, Pete, comes back to the house. I don't think they're very thrilled by that, but they spin the little, I don't know what you call the like triangle table thing around, and it ends up landing on a D, and they're like, D for Debbie, and they're like, or demon, and they spell out hi friend, which is a little scary, and then they're saying some emotional goodbyes, you know, but then the lights turn off and the stove sets on fire, and Pete gets pushed into break a mirror by an unseen force, and they're kind of sad, you know, they're still sad and they're disturbed, but they're at least like, they finally said goodbye, and yeah, they're sad because they're like, is there something they could have done, but it seemed like there wasn't, and so they want to get rid of the board, because they start to feel haunted because they find hi friend written in various places, which is so creepy. And yeah, the one friend is like, hey, let's just get rid of the board. I don't want to do it. But they're like, we need to have another seance. We need to find out if it was really Debbie. Like, why is she still like hanging around if it's really Debbie? And then it finds out that they never even contacted Debbie, but instead a spirit called DZ, which Debbie had contacted, and that's scary. Not very nice. Very, very creepy. It's very hard to do this podcast alone. I'm regretting everything. Hopefully I do not get haunted, but if my last words were this a Ouija podcast, that would suck. But anyway, so then the board says run, and it says mother's coming, which not ideal, you know. It's not something you want to see in the Ouija board. And then she can see DZ with her mouth shut, and another woman with black eyes and a gaping mouth, which is very scary. And they're like, you know what? We're going to stop using the board. This is not good. But then Lane's going through this videotapes, and she finds, that Debbie had played alone with the board. Oh no. Very, very bad. Debbie had found the board in her attic. And then, unfortunately, that same night, their friend Isabella is killed because she becomes possessed when drawing a bath, and she, like, hits her head, and the tub's overflowing, and honestly, the levitation is pretty cool in this movie, but she gets, like, levitated and drop, and that's how she like hits her head on the corner of the bathroom sink. And you know, Elaine is just like really messed up and like wants more answers. Little reporter in this one. A show must go on, you know what I mean? You gotta find the facts. You can't just let things happen unexplained. And so she tells Trevor about Debbie's video diaries, and Trevor gets all mad at her, and he says that, you know, the spirit is going to come for all of them, so who is next? So, because her own boyfriend sucks, she enlists her dead friend's boyfriend to help, and so they go search the attic, and they discover a lot of photographs that point to the house's previous owner, which was a woman and her 2 daughters. One of the daughters, whose name was Doris, disappeared in the house, and the police suspected that her mother was, like, one of the prime suspects, and the other daughter was sent to a mental institution after killing her mother weeks later. Also, it's very funny. I just want to point out about the hi friend. My friend Casey Weaver in high school would always go, hi friend, and now it's like an Ouija board, so I pictured this ghost being like, hi friend, like Casey, but not even at all. Like, that's so much more innocent than the spirit that's going on. So anyway, yeah. The one daughter was sent to a mental institution after killing her mom. You know, sometimes you snap. That's the way that it is, you know? Just kidding. Please don't kill your moms. Treat your moms with respect, even if they're mean to you. So then they go meet with the sister in the mental hospital, and they learn that mother had conducted seances and had used her sister Doris as a medium for spirits to inhabit. And in doing that, I mean, already it seems like she was already suffering. Like, why would you use your child as like a vessel? That's really, really scary and mean. But she was losing her mind, I guess, and then killed Doris. But she sewed Doris's mouth shut to stop the spirits from talking any further, that's scary. I mean, the spirits were saying kind of nasty things, but also like she kind of started it, but super scary, super traumatic, feel really bad for these children. So they're like, hey, you want to save your life? Lane has to cut open the sewing in Doris's body, who's stored in like a secret room in Debbie's house. And Lane gets like just terrified. You know, the mom spirit is just not helping her out at all because she doesn't want this, because it wants to remain an angry spirit. You know, some people just want to be mad, even in the afterlife, I guess, and sets up all these challenges. But however, Lane ends up being able to cut the sewing open and getting Doris's spirit free, and that's good. But Pete gets possessed and killed by Doris, and Lane learns that her sister had manipulated, the sister that's in the mental hospital, had manipulated her into cutting the sewing because she's, you know, bonded with her sister and is in cahoots. And the true danger has always been Doris, not her mother, who only wanted to prevent people from using the Ouija board. And now they just let out a super big bad. So that's pretty sad. So the mother spirit was actually trying to help, even though it seemed evil at the time. You know, sometimes that's such a parenting lesson, you know what I mean? Sometimes when you're mad at your parents, you're going to realize, as flawed as it may be, sometimes they were only trying to help in their own flawed way, whether it was good or not, you know? So anyway, Lonnie then turns to the voice of her grandmother, Nana, who had already told her that, you know, please don't use the board. But she said she has to sever the ties that she made with Doris by burning her body and the Ouija board. And so she goes to Debbie's house, the old Doris's house too, with her sister Sarah and Trevor. But then Trevor gets lured and drowned into the house pool by Doris, which sucks. But he also wasn't a very nice guy to her, so, you know, maybe be nicer to your girlfriends and spirits won't drown you in the pool. Just kidding, but maybe, you know, just take it like it's serious. Maybe be nice to women or a spirit will drown you into a pool. So then the two sisters get separated by Doris, and Sarah almost gets killed, but Lane decides to play the Ouija board alone to lure Doris into playing it, and then she's going to be possessed by Doris. But Debbie's spirit appears to save and is like what a good friend, coming back from the life to save you. If I'm dead, I want to stay dead. So I all my friends out there, if I end up dying before you, please don't put me in this position where I have to come back and help you out. But anyway, Sarah's spirit puts Doris's body in the furnace, and Lane tosses the Ouija board into it, and they've defeated Doris. And then, unfortunately, when Lane gets home, the planchette is manifested back into her room, and it's still there because this is a horror movie, and nothing can ever end well. This is a short review. Obviously, this movie had a lot of action in it, and I'm not going to give you a blow-by-blow of the action. Like, just watch it if you want to see it. That's just, like, the gist. I would say this is a very creepy movie. I do not think, like, you should not play the Ouija board alone. I do not think you should watch this movie alone. But I think if you had a teenager that's into horror films, probably like 16 to 18 could watch this film and discover it. It's not too scary, but it is like intense, and I know Ouija has a lot of things, and I'm sure this brought like a resurgence of the Ouija board. But yeah, it wasn't a terrible movie. Obviously not one of my favorite horrors, but it was pretty good. It was like how I feel most horror movies are, like fine, nothing like to write home about. I definitely think the prequel was like above and beyond, because I think the acting was like a little stale here. I think for the most part everybody's relatively new, and this was probably an indie. I think it's a Blumhouse. Oh no, yeah, it's Universal. It's attached, or Universal was attached, but then dropped out because they were concerned about budget. But then they rejoined again once they decided to do a lower budget. It's so weird. You feel like Universal could just do anything. Yeah, I guess like some other fun facts, because this is kind of short. Yeah, so they made it with a lower budget. It's so funny because you think Universal has all this money, they can do whatever they want, but nope, everybody's on a budget, even rich people. Isn't that something? And I guess like Doris used to be a burnt looking girl, which maybe makes sense with like the fire, but then ended up doing the stitches, probably because that's a little bit scarier. I guess the setting for the mental asylum is the same that they use for Teen Wolf, which I think one of the people is in here. Mostly females watch this movie, and mostly under 25-year-olds, so I'm laughing at Rotten Tomatoes review of it, where they go, slow, steadily, although no one seems to be moving it in that direction. The Ouija planchette points at no, which is so So rough. Yeah, they didn't like, I mean, the story sounds cool, but yeah, none of the cast is very interesting. I'll kind of agree to that review. But yeah, it wasn't anything to write home about. I think like the storyline with the mother ghost thing is pretty cool, but yeah, I remember the acting being kind of like meh on this, that's unfortunate, but hey, you know, now we know about Ouija and we know about the rules, and please follow them. Probably please don't do Ouija boards, but you know, you gotta live your life, and maybe that's your religion. I don't ever want to shame anybody for that. But yeah, let me know what you thought about this movie. Let me know if you would like to be a guest on some stuff. I didn't really bring anybody for these movies because I don't really know if anybody has seen the Ouija movies, and sometimes like horror movies, I feel like unless it came out this year or is something like particularly really well known, not a lot of people have seen it. Plus this was a super short review, and it wasn't also a very good horror movie, so I don't want to be like, hey, come talk about this terrible movie that you may or may not like. But it wasn't, I've definitely seen worse horror films, 100%. So that's it. And again, if you want me to get the Ouija board at my house, please donate to fund my one film so that we can get rid of it. Hopefully it doesn't come back on my bed, because that would be scary. You can find all of the donation links below, and if you can follow me on social media too, that will be nice, because I can use that money to also fund film and deal with all of that. So anyway, thank you so much for listening to Is This Really for Kids, and I hope you have a great day and are not haunted by spirits. Bye!